You ever watch a documentary about North Korea? One of the things that they allegedly do, which I say allegedly because I don't know what to believe in the media anymore. But one of the things that North Korea allegedly does is they set up these like fake buildings, and sometimes they're like fake stores where they have like lots of products available. It looks amazing, like it looks like you're walking into like a Uber Walmart and stuff like that. But really, in the back, there's like nothing there. It's just like it's all fake. They'll set up like guard posts and like weapons and things like that. So you think their defenses are like really strong, but from what defectors say that they're just completely abandoned. Like there's really nothing there. They've got some military capability, but they're faking a lot of it, and they want you to think that they're a lot stronger than they are. There's nothing wrong with this, by the way. I mean, you wouldn't want your enemies to know your full capabilities. You want them to think that you're stronger than you actually are. But it's fake. It looks strong, it sounds strong, but it's really not strong. That's what we saw a lot on Twitter recently. This video is about the Ahmaud Arbery reaction. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into the case too much, for a couple of reasons. One, the information is still ongoing, so I'm not trying to put my foot in my mouth when it comes to the facts of the case. And two, there's going to be a trial, and frankly, I don't know much about the case. I actually first heard about it because one of the people that's very against like James White and Doug Wilson and all that stuff, retweeted something I had said about face masks and said, very sanctimoniously, you would think this is about Ahmaud Arbery, but it's not. It's about masks. And like as if I'm supposed to be angry at the same things that she's angry about. It just makes no sense. I'd never heard of Ahmaud Arbery, and I didn't know what was going on. I actually just watched the video for the first time 2 days ago, and I've got some thoughts on it. But what I want to talk about mostly is the reaction. Because, the usual suspects have commented about it and have lied through their teeth about it. This one's from LeBron James. This is a usual suspect. You don't really expect much from LeBron James. This is what he says. He says, "We're literally hunted every day, every time we step foot out of the comfort of our homes. I can't even go for a damn jog, man. Like, WTF, man. Are you kidding me? No, man, for real. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, Ahmad, and my prayers and blessings sent to the family." And the meme that he posted is a picture of Ahmad looking sharp. And Ahmad says, "I was murdered by an armed father and son who hunted me down and shot me as I jogged in a Georgia neighborhood. Neither of my killers have been charged. My name is Ahmad Arbery." So the idea here is that two white guys decided they wanted to go hunt a black. And so they found this guy jogging peacefully in the street, and they said, "Oh, there's one, son. Let's go shoot him." You know what I mean? And then they shot him, and they were going to get away with it. So there's nothing believable about this story, by the way. Like the idea that a guy was just jogging, minding his own business, and a white guy and a black guy said, "We're going to go hunting some black people," and then they got caught, but they weren't going to be charged. Like, there's nothing believable about that story at all in year 2020. So I knew that didn't happen. I mean, that's insane. But anyway, but obviously don't put any stock into what LeBron James says, But what was unusual about this one is that there were an inordinate amount of this kind of posts. Have you seen this kind of post? "Well, I'm not an SJW, but I must speak. My conscience within me is burning up. I must speak against the racism that this has exposed." And it's just I've seen a lot of that from people that you wouldn't expect it from. I'm not a social justice warrior, but, and then what follows is essentially social justice warrioring. And I don't feel any shame in saying that, because the reality is that there is absolutely no hard evidence that race had anything to do with this particular crime at this point. It's May 13th. And I have to be honest, if race did play a factor in this, you would assume that you would have heard the hard evidence by this point. But maybe not. I'll wait for the trial. I said this on Twitter yesterday. It could be that this father and son are grand wizards. You know what I mean? That's certainly the message that the media is trying to portray. If you notice, you'll typically see this very clean-cut, picture of this very handsome young man, Ahmaud Arbery, you'll see the picture like this, but of the two white guys, you'll see them essentially looking like they have a hood in the back, in the closet kind of thing. Yeah, so you can see the propaganda working its way through this. You'll never see the picture of Ahmaud Arbery when he's looking kind of angry or mean or anything like that. But the two white guys, oh, definitely. Maybe they probably just got back from a rally right then and there. Anyway, but the point is, so we'll see the trial. I mean, maybe they're grand wizards. Maybe they made some Twitter. Maybe they did some Google searches, how to hunt black people, before they went and did this. Maybe they did that. That seems very unlikely to me. But hey, maybe I'll wait for the trial to see that. But actually, I don't even care. I don't even care if race motivated it or not. It makes no difference to me, because the reality is that a murder, if it is a murder, which it certainly seems to be a complicated case to me. If it is a murder, I don't care if you murdered someone for being black or if you murdered them because they stole your bubble gum. I mean, it's to me, the act of murder is something that the law of God is absolutely against. It has no toleration for it, and you get the death penalty. It doesn't matter what the motive is. If you're angry at someone because they looked at you with a stink eye, or you're angry with them because they have the wrong skin color, if you murder them, you deserve the death penalty. So the actual motivation really doesn't matter to me. But in this case, I'm seeing so many conservative Christians that are saying, I must speak about the racism of this case. And you ask them, well, what's the racism in this case? And, well, they really don't have anything except for a bunch of assumptions. Well, the perpetrators were white and the victim was black. And, I mean, I guess that's enough for some people. That's actually not enough. You can't lie about people because of the color of their skin. I mean, I thought this is pretty basic stuff, right? This is pretty basic stuff. The other thing is, I did finally see the video. I didn't watch it for a long time. And I have to say, I've heard a lot of things about this case that I can't believe people are willing to just make stuff up. I really don't get it. The video is hard to watch. I mean, you can see what happens, and I've seen videos like that before where somebody gets shot and they try to run away, and it's you don't want to see that kind of stuff. It's very sad. But I saw some people that I trust, and they're like, well, what would you do if you had a gun pointed at you? And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, did you see a different video? Because I didn't see them point a gun at him. I know he ended up getting shot, but you can't just make that assumption. I mean, did you see it in the video or not? Did they point a gun at him or not? It's not illegal for someone to have a gun on them. I mean, I guess it depends on where you live, right? In Georgia, it's not illegal for someone to have a gun on him. In New Hampshire, where I am, if I have a gun on me, it's not illegal. I don't need a permit or anything like that. I can do whatever I want to have a gun on me. And so if there's a scuffle between two people and you don't see what happened, does it mean that the scuffle started because I pointed a gun at the person? Well, not necessarily. I mean, that's a possible explanation, but I've seen people just come out and say, well, what would you do if somebody pointed a gun at you? And it's just like, well, but how do you know he pointed a gun at him? I mean, this is stuff we have to establish, right? Like, we can't just say things that we don't know are true. I mean, it very well could be that they had the gun on them. They had it visible. The guy reaches for, this is what the defense is saying, basically, or at least the defenders online that I've seen. The guy reached for the gun, trying to pull it away from them, and in that process, he got shot. And the reality is, we actually don't even know who pulled the trigger. Because if you're fighting over a gun, this is what the defense is saying. I'm not saying this happened, but this is a possible explanation. You're fighting over a gun. You're both presumably going after the trigger. Who knows who actually pulled the trigger, right? This needs to be established. You can't just assume this. And it's like, well, he was stalking him. Those white guys were stalking him. Well, the idea here is that they were doing a citizen's arrest, which I completely believe that's something that is valid. In fact, I think it's required. If you look at the scripture, there's no established police force. So what's the alternative, right? Well, it's obviously going to be citizen's arrest. So we would, if we were a biblical government, we would have a lot more of that kind of thing going on. So I'm not opposed to citizen's arrest. He said, well, he's stalking him. Well, it depends on your definition of stalking. Because if I see someone that looks suspicious in my neighborhood or my house, which I have before, that's happened to me before. I remember in college there was a suspicious guy in our yard. And he kind of walks off after he sees me, and I walk after him, and I say, hey, dude, what were you doing in my yard? Is that stalking? Well, we don't know. I mean, the reality is that the video that we saw, it's hard to say exactly what words were exchanged, what was, because if you're seeing the same video that I saw, right? If you're seeing the same video that I saw, we need to establish these things. We don't know exactly what happened. It's a complicated case. It's not straightforward. And so this is my point. And by the way, again, I'm not commenting on the specific nature of this. And also, by the way, I don't really care so much about what Georgia state law says. What I'm more concerned with is what biblical law says about these things. And I think that there are some things in the Bible that we can look to about, if somebody comes into your house in the daytime versus the nighttime, that might apply here. Things like that. I really do think that these things, these are things that we need to consider, right? But the reality is, if there was a scuffle over a lawfully possessed and a lawfully, handled weapon, that's a very complicated situation, and I think that there is biblical, precedence there about maybe accidental killings and things of that nature versus murder. But the thing is, this is a complicated case. It's a complicated case. So when somebody gives you the rhetoric of, "Hey, man, you can't shoot people for being black," you have to instantly disregard that. That's just empty rhetoric. That's like North Korea having the stores that look full, but there's really no products there. It looks nice, it sounds good, but it's false. It's absolutely false. Any Christian who's promoting that narrative is a liar, is an absolute liar. There's no excuse for it. You can't, this guy was just jogging down the street. That's also a lie. There's nothing about this case that makes you think that this guy was just jogging and the two good old boys decided, let's go hunt ourselves a black guy. It didn't seem like it happened that way at all. You can't just say stuff like that. You can't just say stuff like that if it's just because it sounds good and it sounds powerful. Yeah, of course, you can't shoot someone for being black and you can't shoot someone for being a jogger. But do you have any evidence that that's what's happened here? And the reality is you don't. In fact, there is evidence that seems to indicate that that's actually not what happened here. Not that the defense has to prove its case, but there is a lot of things about this that make this much more complicated than racism. And so conservative Christians out there that are saying stuff like, well, I'm not an SJW, but I must speak about this. Number one, you don't have to speak about something you have no knowledge of. In fact, I would recommend not speaking about something you have no knowledge of unless you're going to, qualify it to death. Well, this is just my opinion kind of thing. I have no evidence of it, but this is my theory. That's fine. I'm okay with that, but let's not pretend like this is a simple thing. This is not a simple thing. And the idea that you can somehow say that this is race related, even if it was an unlawful killing, an unlawful killing, they stalked him, they shot him inappropriately, right? Yeah, okay, fine. It's a murder then in that case, let's say. How do you know race had anything to do with it besides the race of the shooters? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, would it change your mind at all if it turned out that the shooters actually have ministries and charities specifically for black people, and that they were members of the Democratic Party, and that they were you were anti-racist and stuff like that? Would it change your mind about the shooting then? I mean, that's an honest question, and if the answer is yes, which obviously it should, because unless you're unreasonable, how do you know they don't? You simply don't have the information yet. Nobody does. I'm not saying they do. I'm just saying you don't have the information. Nobody knows about the racial status of these people. Nobody knows. Would it change your mind if you knew that Ahmaud Arbery was a long-time felon with a rap sheet the size of Kingdom Come? Would it change your mind that if you knew that he had reached for people's guns before, he had a gun, he was all this kind of stuff? I mean, we know certain certain facts of the case here in this situation. Yeah, he didn't have a gun on him, but do you know for a fact that he didn't try to wrestle that gun away from the other person? Well, you don't know what you would do if you had a gun pointed at you. Yeah, but you don't know if he had a gun pointed at him. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much unknown here, right? There's so much unknown here, and I don't want to talk about the facts of the case because there's a lot of stuff that's probably going to come out still, and I just have no idea. But the point is, neither do you. Neither do you. Don't say this was racism if you don't know it was racism. And even if it was race and it comes out into the trial that they're KKK, you know, all that kind of stuff, that doesn't mean that we have a problem of white people hunting blacks. In fact, if you look at the statistics of crime, and you wanted to make a case for what race is hunting what race, I don't think you want to play that game. That you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes, because it's going to look a whole lot worse in one direction versus the other. And let me give you a hint. It's not the white against black direction. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that proves anything. All I'm saying is that let's not go down this road of racial division when we have no idea what happened here. I don't have any idea, and neither do you. And so I'm not talking to woke people. I don't care what LeBron James has to say. He's gone. He's gone. His mind is mush. I don't care what D.A. Horton has to say. That guy's mind is mush. He posted, I'm not even going to watch the video. I'm just going to denounce the racism in the video. It's just like, what are you talking about, man? Are you crazy? You out of your mind? I'm not talking about Jamar Tisby. That guy's lost. I'm not talking about the BD. He's gone. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking to you, conservative, who has decided, I'm not a social justice warrior, but in this case, I must speak my mind. Speak your mind if you must. Speak about you know, your opinions on citizens' arrests and accidental shootings and unlawful shootings and things like that. That's all fine. Talk about the Bible. That's the most important thing. Talk about biblical justice in this situation. Like I said, I think that there are some really interesting case laws in the Bible that we can look to that have precedence here about what happened here. You know, killing versus in the daytime versus the nighttime, when people strive together, accidental killing, stuff like that. There's a lot of meat there that we can go into. But one thing you cannot do, conservative Christian who says you're not an SJW, what you cannot do is start talking like an SJW, acting as if you know things about the racial motivations of this case that you can't possibly know. And so if you have done that kind of thing where you pretend that this is about racism, even though you have no idea right at this point if it's about racism, I would suggest that you would probably recant that and say, look, this killing looks awful. I don't like it. It looks like it's a very complicated case, which it most definitively is a very complicated case. It should go to trial, but I have no idea if it was racism. I shouldn't have lied like that. Stop lying. That's all you gotta do. You just gotta stop lying. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless. You know how sometimes James White, when he does like a very, when he's like defending himself against like a big controversy, sometimes he'll wear like a bow tie, you know what I mean? Ever noticed that? Like he'll get dressed up for it. At least I think so. It seems that way to me. Maybe there's another reason why he sometimes wears the bow tie on the dividing line. But in this episode, I wore my Bronx jersey just to get a little street cred. You know what I'm saying?